Hello, everyone. I'm back! Hooray! I was missing last episode. Apparently, I was talked about. I'm here with Angelo and Jay, and we have some exciting news. Larissa Crawford, at Larissa_speaks, will be joining us again as a guest speaker at Otafest 2024. Larissa is a published Indigenous anti-racism and climate justice researcher, policy advisor, and restorative circle keeper with over 14 years of experience. I am so excited. I have loved every single one of her talks that I've attended, and oh my gosh, I can't wait. I will make time to go to Larissa's panels. So head on over to otafest.com to buy your tickets.
Yay.
Yeah, she's highly recommended. She's a good time. You learn a lot. And
she makes me cry in like the good way. Like the good, this feels good. This is a good thing to endeavor for.
Naruhodo.
So I'm not allowed, apparently, to ask what I missed last week, so let's just skip over that and talk about what's going on this week.
We're gatekeeping podcast from Nancy.
Yes, Nancy is not allowed to view the old podcasts.
Oh, gosh.
We must move forward, not backward, not sideward, not forward, but twirling, always twirling towards freedom.
She knows why, though. We did tell her about the bet.
Yeah, we told Nancy about the bet.
Non-influenced. Yeah, can't be
I'm
influenced.
told there is a bet.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Yes.
There is the existence of a bet.
Yep. And we want Nancy's honest reaction once we get the review episode going.
Indeed.
We want no bias.
Well, unfortunately, the results will be based on the quality of that first episode. So while you might or might not be right about what I like series-wise, it really will depend on just like what we watch on the day of that like one episode preview.
Sometimes first episodes are really strong. Like it's not unusual for the first episode to be like twice as good as the second episode.
Yeah, and then there are times where it's like you really gotta give it like that second episode before it to really get going.
I forgot what we previewed anyways, so I don't know we're about to watch again in like 3 weeks.
I remember.
Evidently, Jay has had a week.
I just don't remember anything. I don't care.
I'm actually excited. They all looked decent.
Yeah, I would say that my general impression that everything was at least a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, there was absolutely nothing that I put on the list last week that I put on there to spite Jay, to make Jay have to watch something bad.
So there are no like total stinkers in there.
I hope not. I hope
not too, because I'll have to watch it as well.
Same. But Jay, I hear that you've been playing some Last Epoch.
Have you?
Last Epoch, the game
Tell me more.
released. The very next day, the servers crashed.
Jesus, that sounds like a pretty botched launch.
Well,
it's unlucky because apparently the game came out either in beta or early access back in 2019. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been and I didn't play any of it, but I did follow it. I have a long history of liking ARPGs, which are, for the people who don't know, they're sort of like the isometric camera angle with the Diablo style gameplay.
Okay.
I don't play the Diablo right now because I don't really care about the Diablo games now, but I still crave that like style of gameplay. There's also like Path of Exile, which a lot of people have heard about. But Path of Exile is a little too granular for me. Like it gets a little bit too deep with the details.
I don't know.
Also-
That is the reason why I never played The Witcher or The Witcher 2.
Well, okay, hold on. Doesn't Path of Exile run in seasons? Like you kind of do stuff in a season, and then it all gets wiped, and then you start over again.
Yeah, so there's most of these types of games do run in seasons. It just depends on what they want you to do. For example, I don't know about Diablo 4, but like Diablo 2 and 3 in ladder, it's basically like first one to get to level 100 and beat the game story, that's the ladder. So it's more of a first as opposed to the best or or the highest in a sense. At least with Last Epoch here, the seasons are tied to like arena. So instead of like story, like, oh, congratulations, you just beat the story for the billionth time, and you were the fastest at beating the story this time, so you get the first slot for your character type or whatever. They do arenas as their end game content. So like it's just like wave battles, wave after wave after wave, and it's endless. So basically, you're just submitting yourself to. It's a lot of grinding, but at the same time, at least it's not just about, hey, you happen to finish first. It's about how much have you actually defeated? How much can your build actually handle?
Oh,
Yeah. What's also
that sounds
nice
nice.
is that, for example, if you created a hardcore character, hardcore is just slang for basically a character that can only die once, no respawn afterwards. A lot of people take that challenge really seriously, but
Oh boy.
even with like the arena mode, so obviously like at one point you're going to fall and you're going to be playing your hardcore character in the arena, but they've made it so that any hardcore character, regardless of when they die, it doesn't disappear permanently. It just disappears from hardcore. So it moves into the
Okay.
softcore realm instead. So you can still play your character. Your character still exists, and you can still be proud of it.
That's
You know,
that's very generous.
I think so
That's
too.
not too bad. I was actually surprised when you said that you just started playing it and that it just released, because I was like, I feel like I've heard that name before. And yeah, so it did come out back in 2019, and I was looking at on Steam and it's like, oh, mostly positive, but everything recently is really mixed. What's going on? And so apparently the servers have just gone brrr. The servers can't keep up with the demand.
Yep.
Oops.
You would think that after 5 years of early access they would have learned, but I don't
Well,
know.
that's the
What?
thing. I wonder where that sort of comes from. Like, if you've been around for a while, what kind of player base do you expect once it releases? Do you expect everybody who's ever played to come back? Do you like what is your prediction model? You know?
I feel like they would
I
have a prediction based on older updates.
I would want to know exactly what the real numbers were and why they seem to cause an exponentially larger load than linear. Like linear load is what you expect. It's like when you add one new user to the service, this is the hit that the performance takes when you add one user or 5 users or 10 users. Why does it seem like this took them by surprise so differently than before?
Maybe it's just that they didn't want they saw in previous updates what the curve down, how many players would stop playing after so long. And they were like, okay, well, we can get more servers, we can do some load balancing, but we'll only really need that for the first 2 weeks. And then after that, the current servers that we have will be more than enough.
I mean, at the end of the day, like they still work really hard on releasing the game. They obviously try to alleviate the issue with buying more server space. And the most important thing is that for the people who are able to play, it's a good game. It's not just a bad game plus server issues. It's a decent game with server issues, and server issues are fairly like they're intermittent, but annoying, but they're also temporary. They also tried to alleviate what was happening with like just encouraging people to play like a full offline mode, because there is a full offline mode. But what's interesting about the offline, so you cannot bring an offline character into online. Like if it's offline, it's basically implied that you're just trying to play for story, and
Okay.
which is fine. But what I think was really interesting was that, so you cannot, obviously you can't party with anyone, you can't trade with anyone, but you still have access to the online chat. So they sort of let people have a connection to like social, like via the chat. I assume maybe if you're part of a guild or something like that, you could also access those kind of chats too. But you're able to just play on offline, which is like, some people might not see the point, but I think being able to be connected to your gaming social network on that game in any mode is not a bad idea. Like, it doesn't
That's absolutely
conflict with
valid.
anything, right?
Like, depending on how everything is set up, it could have potentially been more work to remove chat in offline mode.
Sure, but
I
also like
wonder-
chat is like the least amount of, it requires the least amount of like
Resources.
back and forth on a server. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like the impetus to why some online games have like a queuing system to get into servers.
It
Just to, like-
absolutely is.
And so I'm gonna draw on experience from an old game called Guild Wars 2.
Oh,
Guild Wars
old
2
game.
has this thing
Old
where they
game.
spin up new instances for worlds for players to join. If they notice that the player count on that particular instance is quite low, they will tell you in a warning, hey, the load on this server is very low. We will be shutting it down soon. If you opt to jump to a different instance now, we'll also give you some bonus experience or money or something. So if you click on the yes, put me into a different instance button, it's like, okay, cool. They incentivize people to vacate that instance. They put people back into the same world on an instance that's better balanced and better utilized, and then they shut it down.
All right. That, on one hand, it would be very intrusive. It would be really jarring to the gameplay, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But at the
You
same
think so?
point,
I don't find it terribly
that's
difficult
not
because
unreasonable.
it's not. But like, I also don't find it that intrusive because you're loading into new worlds all the time anyway. Like the second you go to a different map, it loads up the same. And if you're heading into like an endgame map, it also loads up an instance for you. So it's like there's a lot of instance loading anyway, so it's really not that intrusive, and it gives you the choice. It gives you a whole hour to say when you would like to jump to a different instance. Maybe by the end of that hour, you'll even be done with that world and you'd be moving on to a different map anyway.
Not bad. That's reasonable.
So I feel like that's really not a bad way to deal with it. However,
Did you feel it was like breaking the immersion was annoying at all?
now, like I said, like anytime you move to a different map, it's also loading for you. So
Okay.
it's not like something that you vaguely see. It's not like they're trying to hide loading behind like an elevator or a door opening or like, you know, all those standard loading screens. Like they give you like a splashy loading screen. You know you're loading something. So it's already something that's quite baked into your experience with the game anyway.
That's fine. Yeah.
So I don't find it terribly intrusive in that game. However, if we tried to apply that to Last Epoch, it probably doesn't work super well.
Yeah. And I mean, server issues in games are nothing new at all. Like you were just talking about Guild Wars 2. And one thing that was really a huge issue at launch, I remember when SimCity 4 came out. And
Ooh.
SimCity 4 was... They were very honest ahead of time that it was an online-only game. You had to be connected to the internet for it to work. Now, that was just because they wanted it to be connected to the internet for it to work. eventually hackers found out that no, all the important stuff happens locally. It is literally only saving that happens online. But regardless, you had to connect to the servers to be able to play it all. And EA had no idea how many people were going to be playing on launch. People were getting like 24-hour queues just to be able to play.
Oh no.
It was ludicrous. It was one of the worst game launches I'd ever seen at that point in time.
Oh no.
And it was just exacerbated that one of my coworkers at the time, he legitimately brought his laptop into work while it was in queue because he didn't want to lose his space in queue.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even blame him.
That's dedication.
Yeah. I wasn't even blaming him. I wasn't even surprised. It was like an 8-hour shift and he still didn't get in.
Oof.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. And that
Is
stuff,
unacceptable.
that was like a decade ago. That stuff still happens today. Another very recent game, Helldivers 2. By all accounts,
huge launch.
Exceptionally fun. Ridiculously good. Like
It's
people
a shenanigans
love this game.
with the boys. Shenanigans with the boys type of game.
It is spreading democracy with the boys.
Yeah.
It is spreading liberty with the boys. It is removing bugs and terminating Terminators with the boys.
Unfortunately, the bugs still exist in the form of server issues because not only were their servers overwhelmed, right? But the community, being consisting of mostly the boys, figured out that instead of logging out of the game every night and then having to re-enter, queue or experiencing server connection issues, now these people are just staying in the game
Oh my God.
when they're not playing to
And they
take
don't
up server
get-
space.
Idled out?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And
My
then
God.
other people can still not enter.
Wow.
That's the meta.
I haven't played this game myself, but a lot of my VTuber friends have been loving it. And despite this, they've consistently maintained, don't try to stream it. Just don't. If you try to stream it, you might just be waiting in queue for half an hour of your stream collab.
What is it?
Good.
What is it? Why not stream it? Like what's the reasoning?
Because you'll just be in queue the whole time.
Oh,
If you
okay,
remember,
I see what
it's
you
very
mean.
similar to like how Overwatch, back when they introduced role queue, where you
I
had to
see.
join in for a specific, like either DPS, support, or tank.
See, you say
People
that.
who are
I
trying to
never
play
experienced that.
DPS, because DPS was the most popular role. The people who were at the high end, like if you were Diamond, Masters, Grandmasters, you could be waiting 10, sometimes 20 minutes for a game. For one game. To the point where a lot of Overwatch streams, like especially the really high-end streamers like Seagull or Sure4, they were spending more time playing like
Waiting the
fishing mini games or anything else
nice.
than actually playing Overwatch.
Yay.
If I remember correctly, I may be making this up, I believe that's where XQC's bullshit React shenanigans started from. Yeah, server issues kill games.
I mean,
Insanity.
it's a shame. It's a shame because it's not a representation of the work.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is a representation of the work in the most negative way possible due to positive factors,
True. Absolutely.
right?
Ah,
I don't know. I've been having fun regardless, and I haven't had that many issues with the online. Like, there's been a couple times where they've had to straight shut down the online servers to fix whatever issue or issue the latest patch, hotfix, whatever. But overall, it's been good. It's scratched the itch for me.
nice.
So, yeah, I can't complain.
And so if you ever do run into a server issue, you have 1 day left to just walk away from the PC and go get some nice hot Chocky.
Hot Chockies.
The February YYC Hot Chocolate Fest has been in full swing for 4 weeks now. Have you guys enjoyed it?
Have you encountered any outstanding favorites yet?
I'm actually bad. I haven't gotten any hot Chocky.
Gas.
Oh.
Well, it's okay. I'm justifying that with that's a lot of sugar. Yep, that's a lot of sugar. I've tried like 2.
Oh, then I've had the most.
Oh,
I probably had like 10.
Oh, wow.
of the 3 of us, you probably have the physical activity that can justify 10.
I just don't go out very much, especially not to cafes. While me and Dio
too.
had our shopping date on Valentine's
Mm-hmm.
Day, we did walk
Yeah.
by a cafe that had some hot chocolate.
Very
and we were
nice.
like, oh, this would be fantastic. But we'd
Mm-hmm.
literally just eaten lunch somewhere else.
Oh, so you were just too full to get one.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
I went out on an errand to pick up coffee beans, and the place I normally go to had a hot chocolate that was inspired by and very reminiscent of Dunkaroos.
Oh my.
And yeah, 100%. It like comes with a cookie. You dip it into the top of the hot chocolate, and it comes out coated in what looks like a white icing with sprinkles on it. And you eat it, and you're like, "Yep, that is a Dunkaroos. I'm eating a
Nice.
Dunkaroos in my hot chocolate." But after you eat the biscuit, the drink by itself just kind of becomes too sweet because it's a white hot chocolate, and then on
Oh.
top of it, there's the stuff you're supposed to dip your biscuit into. So you kind of end up with nothing to break all the sugar up after you're done eating your biscuit. So it's really good for about the top third of the hot chocolate.
know
And then
what?
after that, you're like, this is getting a little too sweet.
That's
I don't know what to do with
exactly
this.
like old Dunkaroos, because you would always get like 3 scoops of icing,
Yeah.
and then there was no icing left for the rest of the cookies.
Oh.
Obviously I just took way too big of a scoop, but so they're really just giving you that same feeling. It's like, haha, we've reversed it.
It's
We've
authentic.
given
Yes,
you
we've reversed it.
too much sweetness for the
Yeah.
cookie available.
Yeah. No,
I've
you're
also had
right.
that.
It's a very reminiscent experience, correct?
Yeah, I've
It might
also
not have
had
been the
that hot
best
chocolate,
experience, but it was correct.
but it was okay. You described it very aptly. I like the Dunkaroos nostalgia flavor.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't really care didn't really care, maybe too strongly neutral or whatnot of it. Like, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't particularly amazing. Like, it didn't retain its Dunkaroo-ness after the dunking had stopped.
Yeah.
It was
that
just
first
a roux.
third though. That first third though, that was perfect. And then, after that first third, you're like, I don't know what to do with the rest of this hot chocolate. It's kind of too sweet on its own, and I
Ugh.
don't have anything else to dip with it.
Too
Yeah.
sweet kills me.
Yeah.
I can't tolerate it.
It's a
I've
very
had-
Asian reaction to desserts here. It's too sweet. Just too sweet.
I've had like a larger variety of this year's offerings so far. The general, even looking at like the list of what's available, I would say my biggest gripe is that there's a lot of white hot chocolates this year.
I
So
noticed.
there's a lot of high sweetness, low flavor chocolates out there. Number 2 is, look, so part of the initiative for YYC Hot Chocolate is that part of every hot chocolate purchase goes towards Meals on Wheels, which is a good local charity. Well, I don't know if charity is the right word, but it
Organization.
might not be it's an organization regardless that helps people with mobility issues, with getting food to them, which is nice. But
Okay.
there's a large variance in pricing So some of the hot chocolates are about $6 or $7, which is more expensive than you would pay for a hot chocolate, but there is just like they're trying to make it fancy and decadent. And then there's also factoring in the cost of like the percentage that goes to Meals on Wheels. $12 is too much for a hot chocolate.
1,000%.
Who had a $12 one?
Black Sheep had one because that's the one I'm
yes.
slightly upset about. Not that the drink was terrible, but $12 is a lot, especially when there are other ones that are spirited hot chocolates.
Yes.
But there's also spirited hot chocolates for $17. And I just don't
What?
believe in it.
Yeah.
So by spirited, you mean it had booze in it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
boozy.
$17 for a fucking hot chocolate? No, that's I don't care if it has booze in it. That's too much.
Yeah, that's the kind of price I would pay if you told me that chocolate production was halting, that
Oh, God.
the plants are dying and we are in literal short supply. Then you can raise the price. But for this,
Yeah.
especially when, and this is my biggest gripe about YYC Hot Chocolate, and it has nothing to do with the organization, it has nothing to do with Meals on Wheels, it has everything to do with these basic bitch white hot chocolates that are, some of them are white hot chocolates, some of them are regular hot chocolates. But the problem I have with them is that way too many of them could be made at home.
Yeah.
The descriptions for them, some of them, they're like, we've made an orange hot chocolate. I'm like, cool, that's not special. We've made a spicy hot chocolate. We have made a chai hot chocolate. We have made a, what's the other flavor that I get?
Like
I know
mint
it about-
hot chocolate.
No, it's like, I already mentioned like the spice one. Anyway, the point of the matter is that there's a lot of them where I get that the base is hot chocolate. Don't get me wrong. We all could open up a powdered package of Carnation and
Wait a minute,
fancy it
hold
up
on.
with
No, they're
some
not
milk.
actually just serving the powdered hot chocolate, right? They're actually making proper hot chocolate, right?
I mean, I don't know.
would
I
hope
assume that
so.
most of the ones are probably making a more legit hot chocolate, but there are a few that are making like a hot chocolate that is, for example, from sipping chocolate. There's only a very few that are doing from sipping chocolate. A lot of them, I think, are doing some blend of chocolate syrup plus chocolate milk, and then decoration and flavoring on top. And again,
it is
that is something I can make at home.
17 dolans for a hot chocolate. I want them to have been sitting over a pot, simmering and melting chocolate into some cream liquid base. And I want that booze to be like some fucking
Top shelf
$100
stuff.
of bottle stuff.
Yeah. That is a little disappointing to hear. I did notice that there was a really big selection of white hot chocolates. Again, it's a personal preference, but it's not my favorite style of hot chocolate. I like drinking chocolate. Like the ones where you do actually have a pot of milk and you melt chocolate into it, and it's thick and creamy and rich, and it's good quality dark chocolate, and you do something fancy with that. I have been disappointed twice by attempting to have a good mint chocolate. I like mint and chocolate. I am one of those people who like it. I shouldn't be disappointed. It's really hard to screw that combination up.
And yet it happened?
Yeah,
Unlucky. Was it too
Yeah.
minty or too chocolatey?
there was no mint.
What?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, no,
just
that
no.
is how you
Which
get...
one was that? Which one did you go?
So what happened was they described the drink to me. I liked it, and then I ordered it. And then when I got it, all of the mint was in the whipped cream, and I ordered
it
with
was
no
in the
whipped
drink.
cream. So they didn't add any mint to the
Oh.
hot chocolate to make
Wow.
up for it.
That's impressive.
Oh, my.
So I just got a cup of hot chocolate with no specialty. But like if you just remove the whipped cream and that removes all of the specialness of the hot chocolate, that's not
That's not
impressive
right.
to me.
No, you gotta have the mint in the chocolate, not beside the chocolate.
I get it if you like having whipped cream on top of your hot chocolate, because usually you would sip it and you'd get a little bit of both because you get a bit of that cold whipped cream and the hot chocolate underneath, and it's this great, play of textures and temperatures in your mouth. Cool, I get that. However, I am not a whipped cream kind of person, but if I tell you that I want your specialty drink, but I don't want whipped cream in it, there should be a way to make it and maintain that flavor profile, and removing the whipped cream doesn't remove all that is special with it.
That sucks. On a very short
I was really
tangent,
disappointed.
very short tangent, I have found the best way to make like 1 or 2 portions of whipped cream at home for coffee.
Oh?
Yes. So instead of like getting out a bowl, getting out like a hand mixer or a whisk or something and going crazy with that,
Yeah.
if you've ever used or seen like Gamer Supps cups, just
Oh,
pour
yeah,
some
yeah.
in there with some sugar and some vanilla and just shake the hell out of it. In like 30-40 seconds, you've got whipped cream.
I've seen a much messier
Like
version
those
of
Gamer
that.
Supps cups, the plastic
What's
like
a Gamer
tumblers,
Sup?
often with
Yeah.
like anime girls on them.
Like a protein shaking cup.
Yeah. It is so
Why not
much
just-
easier to clean up after, and it is so fine for like small portions.
Could you probably
I've
do
seen
the
one of those
same-
like failed hacks for making whipped cream. It works. Okay, this method will work if all you want to do is foam up some milk, but if you want to make whipped cream, don't do this. And the French presses, the one where you actually have a plunger and you press down,
Yeah.
and then there's a fine metal sieve that keeps all the grounds in the bottom. If you take heavy whipping cream and put it in there and you just pull the plunger up and down several times very quickly, you very quickly get whipped cream. But you also have this mess above and below your sieve now.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain in the ass.
Yeah, so don't do this if you're trying to make whipped cream. However, if you're trying to make like faux foamed milk or like latte milk by using the microwave to heat up milk and you just need to foam it up, you can absolutely use this.
Fair. But yeah, that was just... I learned this on accident a few weeks ago. And I had
Wait,
to
is it?
share the technique.
Insert my tangent about on accident versus by accident.
I mean...
That's cool. I appreciate cheap ways or like really simple cheater ways to make whipped cream. We are basic bitches, and we have whipped cream in cans exactly for coffee.
I can't remember why, but we had some whipped cream in the fridge, like the heavy cream base.
Yeah.
And Dio wanted some whipped cream for their coffee. And I was like, well, you have a hand mixer, but I feel like I remember in Cocktail Chemistry or some YouTube video, someone using shaker cups to make whipped cream. Let me just try.
I have seen that, yes.
And part of me was like, okay, I didn't expect it to be easier. What struck me was that it was actually easier to make and clean up after.
Yeah. My most recent history with trying to make whipped cream is actually because I was trying to make butter, not whipped cream.
Oh, okay.
So using the little round metal ball that is in shaker cups wouldn't be a good idea for that, because then all the butter would just get trapped inside it.
True. Metal butter. Metal
But it would
compound
work
butter.
well.
It's high in iron,
Yes.
perfect for anemia.
Oh gosh,
You don't
Oh,
need that
gosh.
much iron.
No, you don't.
so much iron.
Your body.
but anyway.
the amount of iron that you need in like your body is like such a tiny amount. People are always like, I need to keep up my iron levels. I'm like, did you eat like 3 pieces of broccoli? Because that'll do it.
Yeah, you know what? My one thing that I learned from YouTube that really disappointed me but made perfect sense. You know that scene in the first X-Men movie where Magneto is like, you have too much iron in your blood. And then he just pulls all the iron out of someone's blood and uses it
He
to
would get
escape the prison.
Yes. You
Yeah,
get so
and it
little
was-
iron.
Not only that,
And
the
it was-
iron in your blood, because of the way that the compound works, it's non-ferrous. It just wouldn't work. Not at
No.
all.
I
Me
remember that
expecting
like
scientific
Mystique.
realism out of X-Men.
I remember that scene specifically because like Mystique tricks a guard into a bathroom and like injects him with this giant syringe of iron, and you're like, that would actually just kill someone, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Probably immediately.
I think immediately, yes, because, yeah, again, the chemical properties of, like, iron that is dissolved into blood is not ferrous.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why can't movies be real?
Well, 90s movie logic be like that.
Yep. Yep.
Just gotta suspend disbelief for the fun, for the
That
fun
wasn't even made in
aspect.
the 90s. That was in the 2000s.
Oh, sorry. That was early 2000s.
I mean, it felt like the 90s. It felt like the 90s was still finishing up. And I mean, we get that feeling every time, more and more these days, that the 90s is just coming a little bit back. I was looking on Kijiji the other day, and 90s cars were being listed as classic cars. I was looking at a game website the other day, and they were saying Final Fantasy VII was coming out, and I was like, what year is it? I mean, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out.
It is.
But-
and I will not get to touch it for 2 whole years, or whenever they decide to release it to PC.
That's what's
I
crazy
mean, that
to
was
me.
6 months last time.
I remember
Okay.
when the
You
PS3
waited 2
came
years
out.
on purpose.
Yeah.
When the PS3 came out, they gave us like a trailer. It was actually a tech demo where they remade the
I
Final
remember
Fantasy VII opening scene for PS3 hardware, and it looked amazing. And everyone was like,
yeah,
"Oh my
and
god,
it was just a tech demo.
Final Fantasy VII remake!" And Squeenix was like, "No, it's just a tech demo."
Just a demo. I mean, it's just look how pretty it is. That's all it is. And you're like, little did you
And
know.
then at the end of the PlayStation 4 era, we finally got Final Fantasy VII Remake, except it was the first third of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting close to the end of life of the PS5. And we're finally getting Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It has been, to be fair, it's been 4 years, I think, since the first segment of the game came out, the first part. It's just that was at the end of the PS4 lifespan.
Yes, I believe
We're
so.
now somewhere at the mid of the PS5 lifespan, and we're finally getting Rebirth. Are we going to get the third one, and assumedly the final one, at the beginning of the PS6?
Probably.
Like, to
That
get
tracks.
one game, one full story, do you need to buy 3 different consoles? Are they trying to Kingdom Hearts us?
Do you think they'll slap it all together into a tin box collector's edition at the end?
No, because it's on multiple consoles.
Well, I mean, they could port it forward to the PS6 or whatever, and then just have a collector's box edition, and it's got all 3. I mean, they'll have to justify it with some like, oh, we fixed this and we fixed that. Like they did that with Kingdom Hearts, which is why I'm referencing it. They did that with like the Kingdom Hearts complete whatever game where it was like one launcher, but it launched 1, 2, and 3 with all of the updates to all 3 games. Plus there was all of the in-betweener games in there, and they like redid all the graphics and made it all updated, and then they released everything together.
That makes a lot of sense for Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom Hearts didn't have 3 games. They also had a Game Boy Advance game, and then they had like 1 or 2 DS games. I was going to call it a Game Boy DS. Holy heck. I'm getting old. They had like a PSP game and a Vita game. They had so many games on handhelds, and they're all canon to the story.
They are all canon to the story, which is why I can't just play 1, 2, and 3. I have to know everything that happens around them.
Whereas if you want that experience for Final Fantasy VII, you can just go play the original Final Fantasy VII.
How much new content is there in these new games?
I am not 100% certain. To my understanding, Jessie in Final Fantasy Remake was a character that existed, but only had a few lines, whereas now they're like
She's a fully fleshed character
on the level of Tifa and Aerith.
Yeah, something like that. And like there was additional stuff featuring Yuffie that was released after the first game too.
Oh, yeah, there
and I
was
think
DLC
that gets
to that
baked
game.
into Intergrade. Yeah.
So
there was additional stuff.
because
And
I was like,
I
oh
think,
yes, it's out on PC now. Final Fantasy VII.
I think there's
Remake.
also a running suspicion too that the game doesn't actually follow the exact storyline of the original game, so you shouldn't count it as a remake, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or something like that. There's some speculation. I listened to some of the speculation and I'm like, that doesn't sound nearly as far-fetched as some of the weird government conspiracies we listen to these days. So, firm possibility.
It is more realistic that they've added and remade and tweaked content in FF7 than it is to believe that birds aren't real and that they're all government surveillance drones.
Yep.
But I mean, a government surveillance drone built into a bird would probably cost more than 93.50 Canadian, which is what it costs to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake on Steam right now.
Oof.
Damn near $100.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it hasn't gone down a bit to like incentivize people to, hey,
$100 for a
Rebirth
third of a
is probably
25-year-old
coming
story.
out soon. You should get caught up on Integrate or something. Here's a sale. I don't know. Maybe they're saving the sale for when Rebirth actually does come out for PC. But
Maybe.
regardless, it'll be a while before I get to play it.
Yeah, it really will be. If I do end up playing it, what I'll want to do is I'll want to wait until they're all available on PC, and that way I can blast through all of them at once.
Yeah, that's like a solid several weekends worth of gaming.
Several weekends, probably several whole weeks.
Yeah. If you just, took several weeks out of your professional life to just play Final Fantasy VII.
Yep, just take all 3 weeks of vacation you get off all at once and be like,
just for that.
I'm taking time off, boss. I got video games to play.
I have a journey to go on.
Which honestly
I'll be
isn't
a
a bad idea.
changed man when I come back.
That isn't an awful idea. Having a staycation and just catching up on media is great. It's comfy.
I agree. As someone with several separate jobs, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
What, having
Ain't
multiple
nobody.
jobs?
Taking
Ain't
time for
nobody got
vacation.
time for
I think he
capitalism.
Nah, the capitalist hellscape will
You have to take a
do just
break
fine
from
without me.
capitalism in order to partake in capitalism.
means. Yes, actually. That is the entire concept of the weekend. The weekend
The
was
weekend that I
legitimately
never get.
justified, and same with the 40-hour work week. They were not justified to give people time off. They were justified to give people time to shop and use products.
I'm
not even joking.
Damn,
Participate in
that's
your
really
local
disappointing.
capitalist hellscape today.
Yes.
That's so depressing.
Shorter weeks are legitimately better for capitalism.
It's true. They just won't give it to us.
Exactly. Because if you have a shorter week, who knows? Maybe you will develop a love interest. Maybe you will have babies with the love interest. Do you understand how expensive babies are?
No, I don't.
It is like, what, $250,000 to raise a baby from being a baby to like an adult these days?
At least.
It is stupid expensive.
Yeah, raising a kid is very expensive.
Yeah. Which is really good for capitalism.
Also, the weird shame game that they play with you when you're a parent.
Yeah. Which is why the 32-hour work week should absolutely become a thing.
I'm in for the 16-hour work week.
Yeah, me
Or-
too.
6-hour work week, let's go.
Yeah.
Give me 20-hour work weeks. I'd be perfectly happy with that.
That's 60-minute work week.
Yeah. Ooh, that's 60 whole second work week. We couldn't even fit a podcast in that.
No. So I guess
No,
we'll
we'd
have
be able to
say-
fit the recording of a podcast into one of those. We wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to do anything else with it, though.
No. And with all the people's free time, would they even have time to listen to our podcast?
Maybe they will next week.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Keep on listening.
Bye-bye!
Goodbye.